Presidential candidates. I talk with my colleagues, Diane Larson and Bill Horman. Diane, you've had a chance to interview President Obama, Mitt Romney along the trail a couple of times, Bill?
Yeah, twice this time. The first time we did it was interesting. It was up in Monroe County, and his team set up the interview for us. They placed the chairs actually pretty far apart, almost 10 full yards, so you literally could not hear him. I almost had to wait for him to stop talking so I could ask him the next question. But yeah, they placed us. Then when we interviewed Paul Ryan, this was so odd. They had American flags behind him, and they were creasing those flags so that they would lay just right, so that each flag would lay exactly the same way as the other, and it was really quite frustrating. But that was all the pre-planning. They just wanted everything absolutely perfect, when in truth and reality, you really didn't even see the flags in our shot. But it's the detail that these advanced teams go through.
Well, and we do want to take folks kind of behind the curtain. Diane, for instance, how early did that day start? You headed east, right?
Mansfield.
Or southeast.
Southeast, right. The president was giving a stump speech in downtown Mansfield, and we were given the only television interview after the stump speech. The speech, I think, was about 1 o'clock or so in the afternoon, and then we got our one-on-one after that. I think we left the station here at about 7 to make sure we were down early. They always scan the equipment. You guys know that. You have to place your equipment to the side, go through Secret Service. Yeah, that picture, everybody says, is that photoshopped? But when we were done with the interview, the president, who was quite cordial, very, hey, Diane, how you doing? Very, very nice. I was a little nervous beforehand. He looked at me afterwards and he said, would you like a picture? And I said, well, yeah. And I looked at Kevin, that's Kevin Binding, the photojournalist who was videotaping our interview, and I looked at Kevin thinking he'd just take a picture with his iPhone, and instead the White House photographer was there with the camera ready and aimed, and my biggest concern was, where do I put my hand? Normally when you take a picture with somebody, you grab behind the back. I thought, do you touch the president? But it was great, and so that was that. Talking about all the people behind the scenes, there was a Secret Service guy there whose sole job was to put the lavalier microphone on the president's lapel, not on his expensive tie. They didn't want our grubby little fingers messing up his nice expensive tie. And then we were told, you have 5 minutes, and there was a timekeeper there telling you, last question, to make sure that we stayed on time. But it was great. It was great. It was a good way for the campaign also to get 2 days of coverage out of that one campaign stop, because we had Zach Pitts in the morning covering the actual campaign event. The White House then embargoed our one-on-one interview for 24 hours to make sure that we'd covered the actual event, the stump speech,
and then a lot of promotion ahead of time, right?
And we would promote the one-on-one interview. It was a clever way to get 2 days of coverage for it. But at the same time, it was, and I'm sure you feel the same way, I'm sure you feel the same way, it was sort of like a spectacular moment for me personally, combined with just another day on the job, because I had the chance to interview a sitting president, the most powerful man on the planet.
Our friends are more impressed than we are.
Yeah.
Although we're impressed, we're not overwhelmed by it.
Right.
Because you can't be. Did you find this? Did you get any small talk with the president at all before the interview began?
I did. I had a little bit of small talk because I know he was going to Akron, I think it was, or he was going to Akron or Kent State right after the Mansfield visit. And I said, I grew up in Canton, Ohio, which is right down the street from there. And when he was talking, he said, we're going to Canton, and so actually, I think I confused him a little bit by putting that nugget in his head. But we did. We had an opportunity to have like 2 minutes worth of just casual conversation.
That to me is for us, could be the most interesting part of this. Mitt Romney's in Bowling Green, and there were 3 other reporter anchors waiting to talk to him. You get the setup, you get 5 minutes maybe, if things go right. But then there's the minute or 2, 3 minutes you have while they're getting things set. And Mitt Romney grew up in suburban Detroit, as I did. So we talked about high schools and growing up in that area. He grew up in the west side of Detroit. I grew up on the east side. So you had that moment, and you say, and the president, before he was elected, I talked to him at St. John's Arena down in Columbus. And, I mean, the president, the nominee, but they're people too. And you get a little bit of small talk in, Bill.
Well, when I interviewed Mitt Romney, we sat down, we had a couple of minutes to set up the gear, and where are you going to after this? Where are you from? He asked me where I was from. You look in his eyes, and he was bright and articulate and interested and interesting. opened up a little bit about his family. They own a farm in upstate. His sister was going to be there, the entire family. You get these little nuggets from the candidates. They are more than just the politician you see on television. Now, when I interviewed Barack Obama in 2008, there's an interesting dynamic that happens. You do the interview, then afterward, the photographer takes the cutaway shot, the proverbial two-shot that you see for editing purposes. There was a reporter there, it wasn't us, who was a little intimidated of Barack Obama at the time, then a senator. And it was obvious that Obama immediately picked up on it, and so he started to make the small talk conversation to put the reporter at ease. And I immediately picked up on what he picked up on. And I thought it was a very gracious thing for him to do. And you catch little nuggets like that when you talk to these people. Generally, they're very, very nice people, very engaging people.
And don't you think also they're pretty?
Bill Horman and Diane Larson talking about behind the scenes, behind the ropes, before the interview begins with the presidential candidates. When we come back, our one-on-one interviews with Sherrod Brown and Josh Mandel. Stay with us.